All right,
You need a gallon.
I got one somewhere. Everybody ready?
Here we go.
Attention, please. Let's move forward. We're gonna start on, number 34. Jeanette, I'll let you take over.
Okay. Back in the first part of January, I come to you guys and ask you all about getting some new voting machines. Per statute, we have to have these machines in 2024. We had asked you all to go ahead, if we could, get them in May so we could get a couple elections under our belt before they are mandatory. So you guys agreed to set up us getting bids. So we had got our bid in the newspaper. Only one vendor had replied to that bid, and this is HARP. So I have Ross Robertson here with HARP. If you guys have any questions, the bid I think we put in your package. Carol put it in your package. Was for $216,047. So I ask you guys to approve that bid so we could go ahead and get this started. I don't think it's going to take a whole long time to get our machines, but you don't never know what kind of problems we might run into.
Where is that? I didn't get that.
Did you not get it?
I have it.
Yeah, it's actually hard.
Yeah.
No?
Hold on.
Well, they come, Kathy actually sent it to you all's hopefully personal email.
Yeah, I saw it, and it may have been on the email I saw
Give
it.
it to you.
Jeanette, can you explain what that bid covers? How many machines, et cetera?
Okay, there's 26 actual scan machines. There's 19. I'm gonna let Ross do it because
All right.
well, for one thing, I don't have my glasses, but Ross, can you go over that?
There's 26 scan machines, which is the machines that will actually
Count the vote.
tabulate the votes on site. There's 19 what's called duo standalones. This is your ADA compliant machines. They're called ballot marking devices. There's 4 Verity Print, which gives her the ability to print on demand at certain locations that are heavy volumes, if you have them. We do pre-printed ballots at our shop and send them out, but she has to distribute those. So if they get into emergency where they under order, they have 4 machines to print their own ballots. We also included the 4 auto ballot kits, which are barcode scanners. They're very handy in conjunction with, and we'll be talking about this probably in a little bit, poll pads that you're all going to be required to purchase. These poll pads produce a little barcode ticket that you can use the auto ballot scanner, and without a poll worker actually having to go through all of your precincts and find the right ballot style, this scanner will automatically populate it and print the ballot on demand form.
So this will do away with human error.
Correct.
The person that's scanning was usually asking the guy behind you to pull B102. B102 might have 3 or 4 different kind of ballots with it. This eliminates it. It'll be scanned and all they have to do is go grab their ballot.
This bid also includes the Verity Workstation tabulation computer that's needed to get your results. That'll be at their office, and all the, what we call V drives that contains the ballot images and the vote totals. They get plugged in, their little memory sticks will plug into this computer and it tabulates the total county election. And there is an item on here, HVS disposal fee. That's us taking your old equipment out, properly disposing and destructing of that old equipment when we bring the new equipment in. It's an optional fee. If you all have a landfill that you want to use here and do your own, you can knock the $1,950.
What hazardous materials are in there? Lithium, lead, zinc, I mean, what's in there?
Well, it's not that as much as these tubs that go with that is composite material that will never degrade. So these go through a shredder that we put them through and totally shreds them apart, and they separate the metals from the plastic and try and reuse the components where they can. But there's, I'm sorry?
Can we pay you guys for that?
Yes.
1950.
Or you go find your own,
Is that something
because,
we can take care of? Yeah, we can take care of that.
yeah,
If you're using it and getting value from it, I'm looking for it to be the other way around.
He said-
Is there any salvage value, I guess?
No, I understand, but he said he's shredding it, then they recycle
No,
the
we
parts.
don't. We don't.
I thought you said that.
No,
was
we
what you
send
did.
it to a shredder. They pick this up. We pick it up when we deliver the equipment. We take it back, we put it on a semi, it goes to Columbus, they shred it, and then it goes to various places.
I think we knocked that 250 off easy.
Yeah, we got landfill,
John
John
can.
That's not a problem for us.
Yeah.
We're contractors.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was my question about any hazardous material. Does it contain any hazardous material that would,
No.
okay, so.
Okay, then he goes about with the reoccurring fees on the maintenance and all.
Yeah, and our company pays all these fees. Most vendors will not. The maintenance support fees, firmware license, software license, we cover all that for all the counties. We pay one lump fee to the manufacturer of the equipment.
How does the shipping come, how would it arrive to us?
Well, that shipping comes to us. From them, we do the L&A testing, make sure all the components are put together right, working satisfactorily. We'll put it on a box truck and bring it down here. And that fee's from Austin, Texas to us, from us to here. And shipping's non-negotiable. Yeah.
I understand the shipping, that's why I wanted to know
Yeah.
where it's at in price.
Yeah.
Some people have $50 in shipping and bill $27.50, but
Yeah.
I understand from Austin, Texas to you, to us.
Okay, and I've got one more thing with these machines getting to us. I've talked to the judge, and right now we are storing these machines at the St. Monica building. We have to find another place to put $216,000.
Did you determine how
worth
many
of
square feet
machines
it
in.
needs? You
No,
need for
but
that?
we can do that. If there's another climate control, I mean, right now we do have air conditioner that may go out. We have radiator heats.
Actually, there's no heat right now in that building. They haven't had heat for a couple years.
I know at the extension office, there's 2 unused office space. Now, I don't know if they're big enough. That's why I was wondering.
Well,
And we can
that's-
check that out.
We need somebody to go with and measure the room, because
Right.
it's more than just the storage. We also store other election things, just because we don't have room in our office
Right.
at that building.
But
also.
it definitely has to be done because last summer it was hot down there and it melted our little rollers and they had to come in and do what they could on that. And you can't find parts for these old machines, so
Right.
we don't want our new machines, we want them to last. So I'd like to ask you guys to go ahead and make a motion and vote on this so we can get started on this election.
I want some more
Questions?
questions.
Okay.
And then, I don't want a motion yet, so I'll note up. Anybody got any more questions on this from the court right now?
One quick, what's the projected value of these, how many years?
14 to 16 years.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good.
And most of these others we've had for 12, right?
We've had the current one we bought for about 2008, 2009.
Okay.
No more questions from this court? I've got a gentleman here that wants to speak, public comment, Mr. Kevin Clements. Can you come up here a little bit where we can see you and talk? He has to be put on the agenda. That's fine, sir.
Well, my name's Kevin Clements. I'm a lifelong Nelson County citizen. I have election integrity is of the utmost importance. And I'm going to back up here and go to a fundamental look at the way we do elections. I know here at the Fiscal Court, y'all don't control the elections, but you have the purse strings to decide on what equipment we buy, if we buy equipment at all. And I understand the 2024 were mandated, but there is some legislation coming up that could pass that gives counties the option to use the machines or not. So this government was formed, is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. My question is when we farm out our elections to a third party, we give a lot of control and trust to the companies that are making the machines. So we did elections with Pan County and paper ballots for years. It worked well. We probably had less discrepancies. I could go into a long list of details of discrepancies that we've seen in elections, statewide, nationwide. I'm not saying we've had it here in this county necessarily in the last election. I don't have any proof of that. But a lot of people could have a lot of things to show that there could be discrepancies that hasn't been checked into. And I know the machines are not supposed to go online, but there's other networks that they can use through Bluetooth mesh networks that can transfer stuff, and there's the possibility of people to hack and fraud to come in. So, with all that said, if we do elections where we have volunteer citizens at the polls who hand count, is that not more of the people, for the people, and by the people? Sure, can they do fraud when there's paper ballots and hand counting? Absolutely. But it requires all 4 poll workers coming together to do that, and it's much harder to do widespread fraud. So I ask you to look at, do we need the machines? France had an election, presidential election, they do paper ballots, hand counting. They got it done in 1 day. When we had recounts of elections, they said it was going to take a week. It didn't take a week. People, they did it in less than a day. So do we want to put as much trust as we had in a third party to control our elections? I know the state's mandating it, but in my opinion, we need more local government, more local control. We're not mandated till 24. Do we want to say, when the state and nobody else has done anything to respond for election integrity, we need to stand up as a county and say, we've got to do things different. We're going to do things right. We want to bring it back to the people and let the consequences lay as they may. Be that go to court. I think it's of that utmost importance. If we lose free, fair, and honest elections, we've lost our country. So I appreciate y'all giving me the time, and I just ask that you consider that and look into it. And thanks for your time.
Sir, can you,
Oh, one more. Can I get one more point too?
Yes.
What's going to be the end of this? They're going to keep updating, and they're going to keep asking us to spend however much money to buy new machines, and it's state mandated. So when are we going to step up and say no? Thank you.
Okay, I have,
You wanna add some-
I'd like to add to
respond
that.
to that anyway, please?
Right. I take control of the elections in Wilson County. I know 100% there's nothing shady going on. My board of elections is not going to let that happen. I get what you're saying. The parties at election can ask a challenger. They can have challengers at these precincts. They don't send us any. I mean, I think one election we had 2 challengers. If you're that concerned, and I get it, 100% elections are, you have to be. But if you don't, these parties are not sending challengers to watch something, I say there's not a problem. And like I said, I take that, it's on my shoulders. I know what Nelson County does. My board knows what Nelson County does. We have to have these machines. Our machines we got now will not go through another election. They may go through another election, but I'd be scared.
He was asking about Bluetooth connectivities
Right.
and Wi-Fi.
I can
Yeah,
address that. if
you
you want.
answered that the last time I asked you that
Right.
question.
Yeah. These are federally certified through the Election Administration Commission. They're also certified in the state. They go into an independent testing labs. They cannot be connected to internet or use Bluetooth. And none of this. Matter of fact, the federal government has even more restricted it. The back office systems that we use to produce databases and all that have to be isolated. They cannot be connected to the internet. So we have to spool the data off and take it off manually and go over to print the ballots. We used to be able to shoot those across the network in our own facility. We're no longer allowed to do that.
What about the e-poll books?
What about them?
Are you including that, the scanner machine?
There's no Bluetooth in it.
No Bluetooth.
We use cable
There's
in
no
it.
capability for the e-poll books to connect to any network or any other device?
They connect to Wi-Fi, secured Wi-Fi.
Oh, so the e-poll books do. That's.
What's that have to do, what's that have to do with the election?
Yeah, the
That's
e-poll
voter
books are
rolls.
only
That is the
scanning.
e-poll book.
That's only to
That's
sign in.
voter rolls.
That's voter
That's voter
rolls.
So, you know, the
registration.
voter rolls, that allows people to have the possibility to manipulate, to how to manipulate.
To manipulate what?
Well, I mean, currently we have 103% registration in the state of Kentucky, when you usually only have about 70% of the eligible voters.
That's because the voter rolls weren't cleaned up from prior administrations.
Right, but if you hack into the e-poll books and you have phantom voters, you can know through the e-poll books who has voted, then you can start stuffing ballots. To me, we need paper, like, we've got paper ballots, and I applaud that, that's great. We need paper ballots, but we need paper sign-in so we can have audits and go back and have a tie of paper of the voter that signed in to a ballot.
Well, part of the problem with that, the state recommended, well, allowed for counties to have vote centers. In order to have vote centers, you have to have electronic poll books. You can't have paper rosters. That way, if someone checks in one vote center and signs in, all the other vote centers are notified that person checked in. So you can't check in here, then go down the road and check in again and vote twice. So that's why electronic poll books are in for that purpose.
That has been proven. We tried it.
Okay, you're not on the agenda, so I can't.
Okay.
Based on our administrative code, I'm sorry.
I understand.
He's the only one I've got on the agenda to speak. But you saying they can't tie into the Bluetooth?
No, wait,
It's physically not possible, is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
So
The,
the question, that one question, I think you answered it is, because I was wondering about that too, so if I signed up at whatever, and then I want to go to the next place, and so that's
They
where
already
you've got
know.
that check and balances in there now,
you have to.
but it kicks it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll tell you that that person's already voted.
Yeah, I understand, yeah. So the state of Kentucky has went far and beyond versus a lot of other states.
Well,
Cleaned up their voting rolls up tremendously.
yes, and they're already slated. I think they just cleaned up voter rolls recently, and they have more that they're doing. I can't really speak to the State Board of Elections and the Secretary of State's office, but that was on their last board meeting.
One question I've got from some people, just, we close the polls at 6 o'clock or whenever the line ends, and you've got your Board of Elections people
At the office.
at the different polling stations.
No, we have them at the office. We have poll workers.
The poll
officers
workers there, and then, so, but if they want to turn the machine back on at 8 o'clock, does that throw up a red flag to you? Do you know
They-
that?
They're not gonna turn that machine.
They can't turn it back on.
Why
What they do
can't
a
they?
closeout process, and there's a card that's taken out.
Okay,
Once you do that, the machine will power up, but that's all it'll do. You can't even put that card back in
this
at
machine,
that
what
point.
about
Once
the
we
old
have that
machine?
Now, he'll have to speak on the
Same
new
way.
ones. I
Yeah,
assume
the
it'll
old
be the
ones
same
do the
way.
same thing. Once they're
The
closed
ones that
out,
the ones that we've got.
the ones you
does that.
currently
He's
have
also saying the new ones.
and the new ones, both, that's part of EAC certification and state.
Yeah.
Once they're closed out, you can't go back in.
Right. John, you got any, you've done more research and studying on this probably than anybody here. You got any questions for them about any updates or?
No, not about security. We exchanged emails several times about them, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I want to know where you're going to pay for it, but other than that.
How we're gonna pay for them?
Right.
Take it out of your blacktop money, probably.
Oh, no.
No, we do have some excess money
Records in
coming
Green County
coming to
machines
you.
have been turned on. We've seen tabulations after polls have closed in the May 2022 primary.
Yeah, once they're closed, you can turn them back on.
Yeah, I've seen records of things where they actually tabulated after the polls were closed.
You can't do that. And you did, we handle the recount in LaRue, that's one of our accounts, and it's impossible.
So once these machines are closed out, the officers print a printout, and it goes on the door to that precinct. So if you're gonna see 3 on this side and all of a sudden you see 10 over here, it's gonna
There-
draw a red flag.
There's,
My board, I'm telling y'all, my board's not gonna let it happen. It's not gonna let it
Would you
happen.
have, is there signed contracts that it's not connected, or not connectability?
I gave Mr. Snow
Yeah, the
a
documents that they
document.
send out for the security
Is all
of the machines,
contracted
it's in
out.
there, yeah.
It's very clear, and it's also clear in the state hand worker, poll worker guide from the state, because they did the certification. These are not connected to any network.
And as far as them changing their mind, I mean, they may, the legislators, they pretty much, they do, and I'm not doubting that at all. But they're gonna have 120 counties saying, we just spent $300,000, and take Fayette County and Jefferson and E-Town, they're way more than what they spent.
We don't have to 24, so let's wait and see.
But why we wanna wait till the last
We can save a lot of
minute?
money.
We've got 200
We can save so much
officers.
money, we don't have to have a machine, we can do this.
My machines won't go another election.
I'm telling you, we
It
don't
was
have
scared
machines.
yesterday. I mean, yesterday, last
We are
election,
using
it was,
paper. We already
You
did
don't
that.
get enough
County
votes.
forgets the machine.
No, poll workers are,
18,000 people voted the last election. How am I going to hand count 18,000 ballots
It can easily be done.
in 2 days? Because I have results by Friday.
You're talking about recounts, what you're talking about.
Right.
Where it's done in a day.
you know, he's
We're talking one
about,
race on a recount
Right.
of the number.
They did the whole.
he's talking the whole election.
How many
In
people?
one day.
How many
Take
people?
about-
How many
How many
people?
people?
Millions, millions of votes.
How many people?
How many people did
I
a
don't
recount?
know. We-
That's what
we-
we're saying.
We've cut
So
down
when you do a-
voting
when you
centers.
do
When
a-
you polling, you're talking about poll workers got hundreds of ballots in one day. Why can't? poll
When you're
workers-
talking about what you're doing, you have to have at least 3 people. They all count them, mark them, and then if they don't get the same results, they start over the same batch. And they keep
We
doing
did
that.
this
That-
before machines and we got it done in one day.
Is that,
Okay, all right, guys.
that's opening up to human
I'm
error,
gonna make a
I think.
motion that we approve the bid for the hard machines.
And I so second it.
For discussion, I want to scratch the disposal fee.
Right, so discussion is, that's without the motion is to approve them without the disposal fees as we discussed about. The 1950 as our landfill can dispose of the machines that we currently have.
And we can take that out. You saying? So I got a motion from Snow and a second by Metcalf. Now, let's talk about any more discussion here. Jeff, anybody else? Snow, you said you've researched this thoroughly and
I'm
you've
good
had
with it.
contact with the state and you feel like there's checks and balances in place. Now, what are we gonna pay for this at? That's the next question while we're in this discussion. And, there's a possibility, you said there's some extra funds that's
I will
left
be
over.
turning over the county clerk's excess fees, probably the first meeting in March. They have to be turned in by the 15th, so I know for sure I'll have, my bookkeeper will have it by the 1st.
This is the funds you spoke about,
Right.
previous meetings that just haven't been turned over yet.
No, they're not been turned over, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
that's
still closing
already-
out last year.
But I'm talking about, is there any excess funds from the e-poll book side? They said it could be some funds. rolled
That's
over
not
to
until
this.
next year, though, not until the next.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's
But
got
but
enough
still,
excess
if we,
funds.
what I'm hearing, if we go ahead and pay for these, the court goes ahead and pays for them this year, you could get reimbursed, but not this year, for the next 12.5 million that they've got set aside.
But that's a possibility.
That's a possibility,
It's not
exactly.
guaranteed. 'cause
The
they can't do
guarantees
that
the
email.
reimbursement on the e-poll books.
Yeah, 100%, yes.
So how much, so do you have an estimate on your excess fee?
I don't have a total, but it's probably a little less than 800,000. That'd be, but now, I don't know what all that you all have in your budget on that's taken.
Well, we had in our
We've already
excess,
budgeted 475,
we did 475.
475.
So there's the potential for it to cover the entire expense.
Yeah,
The
it
additional,
would be more than that, yes, based on what I've
the
seen.
additional that she will turn over, we can do a budget amendment. and pay
You
for
said
the
that
machine.
again. We've already budgeted an excess fee,
Right.
but it's not near as much.
Right.
So the additional,
The excess
And
additional.
the over the excess is enough to pay this.
Okay, any more discussion? MT, you good? All right.
Thank you, guys. So we're gonna.
Wait.
E-poll books too.
We gotta vote on this one
So
first.
we got, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. So you've got that. And then the e-poll books, we got a separate.
It is. Okay, so Kathy's got some numbers. She's been dealing with the vendor on getting our e-poll books, which will be 100% reimbursed to Fiscal Court. We have to pay it up front. So there's some numbers and some extra stuff that I'm gonna let her talk about. If we have any questions on that, Ross can help us with that too. They are partners.
We're partnered with No Inc., the company you got the bid from. Our part of it is really the service part, much like the voting machine equipment is the service part. We will be doing the mapping for the county data, for the voter registration files to map, so the ballot styles are mapped properly for Nelson County to the little micro, or the tickets that come out with the barcode on it. So we'll be doing all that service part. But I can answer any questions knowing if you.
And I know hopefully you all have that. I emailed the last estimate. Yes, good.
This one here, yeah.
Because the state is reimbursing $1,700 per poll book. So No Inc. Did a bid at $1,700. We've requested $40. poll pads back last year with the previous fiscal court, so you will be reimbursed $68,000. Okay. But there is, if you agree to accept the bid, there is a resolution that has to be signed, and then there also is a grant application to start the process of being reimbursed for that money.
I still make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion from Metcalf, second by MT over here.
MT?
Quick question,
Questions?
your data activation fees, those are yearly, but it's included into this first year,
Correct.
but going forward, it will be required to do those, is that correct?
That's correct.
The activation each year, correct?
And I'm gonna weigh in here because we've exchanged emails a few times because I had questions regarding the cellular activation on these. And we don't, that is not a requirement. That is because we have MiFi devices similar to what the Sheriff's Department uses for their MDTs and the EMS uses for their MDTs that are provided by the state currently. Currently, they're provided by the state. The assumption is that they would continue to provide them.
Yeah, we did get an email, I don't know if it was, I contracted that to you, the state is going to continue, I know at least this year, to
Right.
provide those.
And so that, the cellular would be a redundancy on those. If we paid for that, that's an additional $1,800. I assume the receipt paper thing is not included in that. That's something y'all have to have for that,
That
the
is
50
something we
rolls
have to
with.
have, yes.
But the $1,800 line, the two line items together, that is a redundancy for in case they can't get cellular. Now, we talked back and forth about the fact that the MiFis are AT&T, this would be Verizon. But the reality is the areas where where you don't have cellular, you're probably not gonna have any cellular. And my understanding is that most of the poll locations are schools, libraries, places that would have internet available in the event that one of the MiFi devices didn't work. So my proposal would be to eliminate that cost from that estimate.
$1,800?
The $1,800, right. I just don't think we need it. I think it's an extra charge that we don't need to be paying for.
Is that a contract that's annually?
Can I say something?
Sure.
And we as a company, no Inc. and us, we don't care. You can go and negotiate your own rates for that. That's a set rate they have nationwide on that cellular plan. And these are cellular pads. The one thing you have to be cautious of is those MiFis were already booked for this year for the state. That's probably a one-year deal, so you'll probably have to go get something year two for cellular.
Well, how long have we been using the MiFis?
But you don't
But
own
he's
them, the
saying they might
state
be
does.
going away.
And the only reason they're letting you use them is because they were already paid up for the whole year.
So what did we do before they allowed us to use that?
You did
Well,
paper.
We
yeah,
did paper.
We didn't have the electronic
Right.
poll books.
correct, we were at paper rosters before.
So they got their hand in it, we're forced.
Well,
Sounds like.
one more point, and then y'all can make your decision. Those MiFis are owned by the state and done by the state. That has nothing to do with us. So if y'all have connectivity issues and don't do a cellular plan on the poll pads, we can't do anything about that connectivity issue.
Well, what would you do about the Verizon connectivity issue? if
That we
Verizon did-
we would handle those issues. We work very closely with every Verizon location. They will be on the phone with them and getting somebody out there to take care of it.
You mean if you had to set up a temporary Wi-Fi station?
Whatever it takes.
Like they did down in eastern Kentucky when they
But I'm just saying, we can't be responsible for another party's
Sure.
MiFi.
But they do have Wi-Fi capability, so they could connect to the Wi-Fi at the library.
Absolutely.
They could connect to the
Well,
Wi-Fi.
but here's the thing, and I have not talked to them. I don't know if the schools or the library are going to be willing to give us a password because it can't be the public network. They're telling us it needs to be a secure network.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just saying that's a chance you're going to take because I don't know if they're going to allow us access to their networks.
I've made
Just
my
saying.
suggestion, you have.
I'll be quite honest about it, based on the knowledge of what you've researched. What do y'all think? You're the ones dealing with it every day.
I say for $1,800,
Rather have to
I would
back
go
up.
ahead and do it, and we know we have we have the
Capability.
that stuff that
You don't want to get there that day and then,
No.
whoops, we
Right.
ain't got nothing.
Right. And that's what I'm scared is gonna happen.
And we have a lot of poll workers that if something goes down, they don't have a clue it's my fire, if it's this. So we need everything working 100% once we get those machines to those precincts. I mean, it's hard enough getting poll workers right now. If you have to add in that they've got to be technical now, we're not gonna get them. We're not gonna have them.
Why don't we try this and say, this is for a one-year contract, the first year,
We can-
and then we can test
We can do that.
it out at each location to see if there
And
are
then
other
see.
options. And then on
I think that's a good idea.
Make that decision.
Now, you got the motion, who made the motion, really?
Keith,
Keith?
Kim Keith seconded it.
All right, I got a question, but I also can't let you talk, I can let Mr.
Well, I think this is important.
Yeah, I got to
What
talk.
he just said.
Administrative code, I can't let you talk. But
What about,
he can, yeah.
there you go, ask him about that.
Because I've got him on the agenda, you know what I'm saying, because we haven't got that code
To
updated.
show that to him, you know, he said you can't turn those machines back on, but right there is proof they were turned on a day and 2 days after the election.
Yeah, here's a list if you'd like, there's from the Root County where the machines were turned back on, they're showing votes counted after the polls were closed.
We said the machines
Yeah,
could be
if you
turned
get that
on.
red flag, you've got a
I'm
statement on the
talking about
door.
putting votes back.
This is a record showing votes being put on after the polls.
There's no votes being put on those machines after.
Yeah,
Okay, well, this is not related to the e-poll books, this is related
Right,
to the voting
the
machines.
machines, yes.
And that motion is already passed.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, the past,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
We could still talk about and discuss it later, but let's go on with this, any more discussion on this part? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Jeanette, you good, anything else? And that gives me authorization to sign the documents,
Yes.
okay?
And I do have one more thing concerning the clerk's office. The March notices, and this is actually for the media, March notices have went out. When you come to our office, you're gonna be in a long line. Just be patient. It's for all farm tags, trailers, company vehicles. But you do have other options. You can renew your vehicle on drive.ky.gov. You can do all renewals on that as long as all your information's up to date. And then we do have our drop box out in the front of the building that you can use. Just add your $2 that's on your registration from Frankfurt, and we'll mail it back to you. But there is gonna be long lines because March is our busiest month for motor vehicle. Thank you, guys.
I just want to give a hand out to Jeanette and her office. I think she's done an exceptional job with the voting that's went on in Nelson County.
And I thank you, John, for following up with all that.
Yes,
I'm gonna
John,
be
thank you for all
secure.
your work.
This is the secure part of it, is what I'm
Thank you.
concerned.
Appreciate it.
Sheriff's